Hi, I'm Alice White and I'm from Bruton School for Girls. First of all, it's just amazing to kind of see everyone's interpretation of the community projects. Ours was quite hard to set off because we didn't really know each other's schools. So Claire and I from Bruton School for Girls and Lisa and Lucy from Badminton School. So it took us a little bit of time to work out exactly what was similar about our schools and what we could do. We soon obviously realised that we're small and we're relatively rural, so we had that in common. And we needed to work out what else we had in common. So after mulling over a few ideas, interestingly, careers was number one on our list, and then we thought, actually, is there something else? And we realised that probably the biggest thing that we had in common, or we spend most of our time doing, is dealing with girls that are struggling with, if they perceive they failed, how they cope with that, or maybe their desire to always get everything right, even if right isn't really something that exists. So we kind of then had our theme of what we wanted to do and our really wordy title. And then we just kind of had to work out what we were going to do with that. So to begin with, we decided that we would survey the girls in both schools and also staff, because we had an inkling that maybe there was a mismatch there, but we weren't really sure, so we wanted some data to support that. So we did that and had the data back, and that happened about a year ago. After going through all the information, we decided to split as schools. So BSG, we focused on the girls because that matched with what Claire and I do at school, and also pushed us into some other areas that we don't do. And then Badminton looked at staff. And we're going to now talk about those sections.
Okay, so we analysed our results and realised that there were great similarities between both schools. You can see stress was very high up, was a word that an awful lot of girls used. This survey was anonymous, and we did get some really interesting comments, and the same sort of ideas did repeat. Alice and I realised that we did have a bit of a problem here, and we felt that we wanted to devise a package of resources that would feed into our weekly tutor programme, working with our senior school girls, developing some of these skills. We felt that we had a window of opportunity sort of around this time of year where we had 5 or 6 weeks where we could implement this project. And interestingly, while we were thinking about this, it coincided with quite a lot of media interest on the chimp paradox, which some of you may have heard about or read. And we used this research alongside the information that we had got from the surveys, and used this as a basis of the programme. We felt it was really important to work with the girls in a practical way and to give them practical solutions to the problems that they faced. Additionally, we wanted to underpin quite a lot of what we were doing with them with science. So we had included that. And in the first session that we did with our girls last week, we've included some basic information regarding the brain. We focused mainly on years 9 and 10 because we felt that that was a pinch point generally, and particularly for our year 9 and 10. The feedback that we had was that was where their sort of resilience and their ability to deal with failure became a problem. We have started today actually in our absence. Years 9 and 10 have done a benchline survey. And then they will undertake 6 weeks with Alice and I, a programme looking at managing a variety of issues, such as managing the inner voice, that voice that's telling them they're not good enough, asking them to really think about what is success, looking at strategies for getting things done, because one of the things that we found was actually procrastination was a real issue for them. And we've also going to look at what strengths are that aren't academic, because a lot of our girls do really view the academic success as the be-all and the end-all. We will then conclude with an activity where they will write a letter to themselves for the future. So that future may be the following week, the following month, the next year, giving themselves some advice when they are struggling. We hope then that this will give all our girls at least one strategy moving forwards. And at the end of the programme, we are going to resurvey them and see whether that has actually been achieved.
So the great thing about this project was it was a collaboration between Bruton and Badminton, and it was really nice having the similarities between those two schools, but also being able to look at our differences. And as Alice said, we did want to look at slightly different things. We shared our research, we shared the resources, we used what we've got in both of the schools, but then we took that and we each explored what we wanted for it. So where Bruton went off and did the student perspective and what happened with the student, we felt that there was something from the teaching perspective to learn as well, and that could inform how we presented ourselves to the girls and how we interacted with them. And there was one thing that really struck a resonance with us and struck a chord, and it was this one. We asked teachers who had or what had the biggest influence on girls. And by far, they felt that the peers, the parents or themselves, were the biggest influencer on the students. But when we asked the students whose opinion they valued the most when it came to their schoolwork and what they did, it was crystal clear that it was what the teachers said that mattered to them. And we thought this was really quite a big discrepancy. As teachers, we'd put in the importance of their peers and the importance of their friends. But actually, as far as the girls were concerned, it was much more about what the teachers felt that was important. As professionals, therefore, we really are far more influential than we often give ourselves credit for. And we really need to think carefully about how we feed back and how we interact with our students in order to get the best possible out of them. Our responses impact their resilience on what they do. We then looked at which was the most important, and on the left you can see what the pupils' responses were, what was the most important to them. And they ranked being hardworking and being clever and then being able to deal with setbacks as very, very important to themselves. Whereas here, the teachers felt that actually girls really just cared about being clever. You know, and some of that is a reflection of the type of school that we work in, absolutely. But teachers felt that resilience was actually way down the list of importance for the girls. But actually this wasn't the case. And again, there was this mismatch between what the girls felt and what we as teachers thought they felt. And then this one was quite an important one. In retrospect, looking at it now, we should probably have asked the same questions to the girls as we asked the teachers. However, we asked it slightly different. And for the teachers, we said, who puts the most pressure on the girls to achieve? And the teachers said, no, it's definitely the girls themselves that put themselves under pressure, followed by the parents, every time. And that came through really strongly from staff. But then when you ask the pupils, overall, what do you think it is your teachers really care about? Over there, preparing exams, helping you learn exam techniques, helping you learn more about the subject, helping you become more confident as a person was not top of the list, which was, quite impactful for us. And then this one shone through because people started to say, actually, what's important is that preparation for later life is the most important aspect of school. And it was almost double the amount that said exam grades were most important. They understood, and we're talking about girls from the age of 13 to 18, they understood that actually they want to be prepared for later life. The conflict in that, though, is that ironically, none of them felt that extracurricular was the most important for school, and very few thought about friendships as being important. And actually understanding that friendships and extracurricular part of those skills for preparing for later life is something, again, that we are going to have to teach our girls and teach our students. They don't seem to value so much the relational side of school, and we have a job of work as teachers to help them understand just how important that is for later life.
So in our survey, we also had a series of questions for the teachers where they just wrote prose. It wasn't kind of evaluated statistically. And what I did is I read all those comments and I saw if I could see any trends or patterns emerging from them and kind of synthesised the very, very thoughtful responses we got from our colleagues about this issue of perfectionism. And crucially, actually pretty much everybody thought that it was a problem, it was an issue in our schools, in our girls' schools. But what then I thought was very interesting is that it seems from our statistics that the girls have kind of got this message about resilience. They've kind of got this message that it's okay to fail. And yet there's still this problem of perfectionism. And one of the things that our colleagues are saying is this is because we are saying one thing as schools, but we are doing quite another. We say it's okay for you to fail. But heads of department are under such pressure to get exam results that actually as soon as they do fail, we go, but there's a clinic for you to go to, so go to your clinic. We say it's really important for well-being and success to have a work-life balance. And yet we fill their lunch hours with clinics if they're not doing very well. We feel under pressure to market our school, to have lots of events which we want the girls to buy into, and we don't monitor their time, they're rushed off their feet. So we're saying that we don't want them to be perfectionists. Have we got a culture, in fact, which is in fact pushing them towards it? And are we really celebrating other aspects apart from exam success? And in our further discussion that we had, we also wondered as well whether as staff we ourselves are guilty of a kind of perfectionism, and whether in fact in the way that we appraise staff as well, the complete focus on exam success means that we ourselves buy into that very perfectionist culture that we are trying to say doesn't work. So I think that there's a kind of problem at the heart of our education system, which is basically that we have perhaps been pulled by our own anxieties as professionals and as schools away from real educational values. We know that perfectionism isn't the answer. Does our system actually engender it? And I think those are big strategic questions that senior leaders need to ask in every school. And perhaps as girls' schools, we should be taking a lead on this. Thinking then about ways that this could actually be moved forward, it seems to me that we should look at how our students are spending their time, and this could be research for future leadership programmes. It would be interesting to track girls and find out what we're doing to them with all these initiatives and things, and whether there is a work-life balance, and we should have some responsibility for that. I think it would be really interesting as well to gather data as to what happens to our students after school. If they achieve all their brilliant grades, but they don't flourish at university and they don't flourish in the workplace, that means we're not doing our jobs right. And it would be very, not just to measure end of school success, but 5 years after. That would be some very interesting research to do. And also, if teachers are so important, then it's really important that our teachers are not stressed out, that they've got the time and the capacity to really spend quality time with the students that they mentor, because we know our teachers are very influential. Therefore, we need to make sure that they can do that most valued job to the best of their ability. So anyway, we found it a really interesting project. I've so much enjoyed working with the colleagues from Bruton who've been fantastic. So I just want to say thank you very much for the opportunity to do this.
Thank you.
I'm an employer. I've been working in the city for about 25 years, and I've also been president of one of the largest women's organisations globally. So I'm very, very interested in your research, and I see some of the factors that you identify play out in the workplace. So one of the things I would just like to just maybe not know about here, because I've got to rush off in a few seconds, but confidence still continues to be an incredibly deep issue in women generally, not just here in the UK. I've just done a stint in India for about a year, and I see it playing out there. So it's still a big issue. So I think that one of the keys to addressing that area, even when I think about myself, it could be that we need to think about how do we naturally encourage young women or young children to forge networks and feel comfortable just being in an environment that's not within their comfort zone, and give them the skills to manage difference. Working in an environment that's outside their comfort zone, how do we begin to do that? Because I think this perfection that we're talking about here, I don't think it's one thing. I think you've got to break it down. But I think that when girls in particular feel that they haven't got control of their environment, I see it in the workplace, they just focus on one thing and they become very good at that. And that's why we see women just honing in their careers in just one area. And I'd like to see them do a lot more and really go for the broader role where they're thrown in at the deep end and they swim. They will naturally swim. So thanks for a great piece of research. Really exciting.
Thank you.